I want to say thank you guys tonight. I did not know Miss Kirrane before her planning commission meeting, and only by virtue of being there for another agenda item and seeing that the list was very short, I was like, man, this is going to be over pretty quick. I might as well stay. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any popcorn because it ended up being that the last application had the most pushback to it, which was really interesting for an ag event center. It seems like unfortunately when the yellow rezoning sign comes out, as you guys know, the knives come out a little bit. It kind of festers into this thing that's, whether it's based in reality or not, it turns into a life of its own almost. And it doesn't become about the code sometimes. It doesn't become about the use. It becomes about winning and losing. So it's unfortunate to see that play out sometimes, depending on where it is. So my olive branch to the opposition as an outsider, obviously, I would recommend talking to probably anybody that owns an ag event center or anybody around an ag event center. Actually, Mr. Pierce was here. He's actually allowed twice as many people in attendance for his weddings that are at his property. I don't know of anybody around, North Hall, South Hall, wherever, with an ag event center that's had a real problem after it passes. So if it passes this evening, like I said, I think my consolation is they don't seem to be problems because obviously if somebody lives there or is very invested in the property, the incidents get solved before they become problems. So I've got two other things I'd like to say here. One,
You go ahead.
sorry. Okay, so if you only care about dollars and cents, then obviously, as it's been talked here several times, residential is a net loser for the county. Apparently, the county loses 10 and 12 cents on every square foot for the county. And so any kind of use that we have that would bring in any kind of monetary value, you would say, hey, this is getting residential back into not as much of a, I wouldn't say burden, but the county's own comprehensive plan, of course, this is, everything's from the comprehensive plan, so I didn't create any of this stuff. The taxes generated by residential development do not fully pay for the services it requires. In short, commercial and industrial developments are important because they generate additional revenues that residential properties can't in the form of retail sales, hotel motel taxes, fuel taxes, impact fees, business licensing fees, etc. You guys already know this part because you guys already talked about it. But again, if there's an argument to be made for does it make sense fiscally, of course there is, because you are allowing a use that still keeps agriculture residential, but we are kind of creating a stopgap with the services that it requires for that space because we're bringing in additional funds. What if you don't care about money? Okay, so if you don't care about money, then we have a couple other things that I'd like to show you guys here. Again, from our county's comprehensive plan. This one is from page 94. It says susceptibility to change, and I think I heard that several times tonight. The highest susceptibility to change, at least in North Hall, is larger tracts of land greater than 20 acres. I didn't come up with that. The county came up with that. And so I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think there is a very real concern, and I would imagine pretty much any of the opposition would agree to this as well, that any of the large tracts around, and I live 5 minutes up the road, up Mount Vernon Road, any of the large tracts around, you are worried. I think anytime anything would come up, you would be very worried that it's going to be a PRD or an RX. Man, that's kind of a worst case scenario, right? Probably Yellow Creek and Kegel Road are living this right now, but they probably see, again, I don't want to put words in the mouth here, but I would think that the opposition would also agree to this, that the potential for disaster here would be pretty high. It's on 30 acres, right? There's several large tracts around. Again, the idea is keeping agricultural residential. And so if we look at things that are low susceptibility, newly constructed buildings, properties in good condition and are well maintained, the obvious answer there is these are things that developers give no credit for. So if we have a horse barn, if we have horse property, whatever, it's not as susceptible to change because there's stuff there that a developer is going to give Ms. Kirrane absolutely no credit for. So again, we talk about trying to preserve the land. The stuff, I'll switch back to this one. The horse part of the property is already there. So, and again, I'd probably say it a little bit differently than comprehensive plan. Really, the susceptibility to change is the desire of the property owner to keep it looking the same way. I guess if you could boil that down, it's what is her intent and what is her desire? And her desire is to keep the property as is, but have horses on it. It already has horse stalls. It already has pasture for those. Okay, and let's see.
You might want to reserve some of her time for rebuttal.
She has Is it part of this time too?
You got about 11 minutes, so.
Okay, I'll wrap it up then. Okay, my last point. If we look at the 2005 comprehensive plan, in 2005 we had 171,098 acres that was listed as agricultural forestry or undeveloped land. In 2025 we have 116,290 acres. So that means that, for lack of a better term, the commissioners have converted 54,800 acres in this county from agricultural residential into something else. So again, if we're talking about preserving AR, then this is a fantastic use of the land. We should be, in my opinion, encouraging things like this because, again, it keeps AR, and we don't have to worry about this use in the future because there are things on it that a developer will give no credit for. Thank you.